I found out my mom died from a Facebook post. Not a phone call. Not even a damn text. Just a blurry photo of a closed casket, tagged at a church I didn't recognize, with my cousin writing, "A beautiful farewell for a beautiful soul." I was sitting at a truck stop outside Phoenix, eating cold eggs off a paper plate when I saw it, scrolling half awake after a 10-hour drive. And then bam, that was her casket. That was my family. And I wasn't in a single photo because I didn't know she was gone. I'm 46. Been driving long haul since I was 21. Divorced. No kids. I keep to myself mostly. Been that way since I stopped trying to prove anything to my brother and sister. But this felt like someone took an eraser to my existence. I zoomed in. There was my sister Linda, in black like she was auditioning for sainthood. My brother Mark standing next to the preacher with that used car grin he always wears when he's hiding something. And cousins I hadn't seen since Dad's funeral. All smiling, all tagging, all reminiscing. But no mention of me. No tag. No "we miss you, Clay." Just nothing. Like I died first. I hadn't talked to Mom in maybe 8 months. Not because of a big fight, just the usual distance. I called, she didn't answer. Holidays came and went. I assumed maybe her health was worse. I didn't know how bad it had gotten. But I never thought they'd do this. I scrolled until my hands shook. There were over 70 comments. People writing, "She raised such amazing children." Or, "Mark, you were such a rock for her." And again, nothing about me. Nothing about the son who fixed the roof after the storm, who wired her $1,000 last Christmas without asking why she needed it. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in the cab of my rig, staring at the ceiling, asking myself, what kind of person buries their mother without telling their own brother? The answer came slower than I wanted. The kind of people who've been writing you out of the story for years, and you didn't notice until the last page was already turned. I used to tell myself I was just the different one. Not the screw-up, not the rebel, just different. Mark went into sales, slick with words and always the center of the room. Linda became the church favorite, planning potlucks and Bible trivia nights like her life depended on it. And I drove trucks. I liked the solitude, the hum of the road, knowing exactly where I was going even if no one else cared. I sent postcards when I could, wired money to Mom when she said the water heater broke or the property taxes snuck up. I never asked what Mark or Linda were contributing. I figured we all helped how we could. But looking back now, I think they treated me like a visitor. A distant cousin, not a son or brother. They humored me when I showed up. "Clay made it this year," someone would say, like I was a dog who found his way home. I tried. I really did. I showed up to Thanksgiving 4 years in a row. I fixed the kitchen sink when it leaked. I helped Mom replant her rose bushes even though I had to leave at 3 a.m. to make a delivery in Indiana. She hugged me that day. That was the last time I remember her hugging me like she meant it. After that, it got colder. I called more often than I want to admit. Sometimes I left voicemails just saying, "Hey Mom, just passing through, love you." No response. I figured maybe her hearing was going. Maybe she was just tired. But now I wonder, was it her ignoring me? Or them? Mark started answering her phone sometimes. Said, "She's napping." Or, "She's with the doctor." That was when I offered to visit. Said I could be there in a few hours. He told me it wasn't a good time. "She's resting. She gets overwhelmed easily." At the time I believed him. I'd park my truck outside rest stops and sit in silence, staring at the dash, wondering what I'd done wrong. Why I felt like a stranger to my own mother. But I never asked. I didn't want to seem needy. I told myself love didn't need proof. Turns out it does. Turns out, love without access becomes absence. The last time I mailed her something, it was a photo of me standing in front of Mount Rainier. I wrote on the back, "Still climbing, Mom." I never heard back. Maybe she never saw it. Or maybe someone else opened it and threw it away. I called Linda the day after I saw the post. My voice was steady but my hands weren't. She picked up after 3 rings. No hello. Just, "Oh, you saw." That was it. No apology. No hesitation. No guilt. Just confirmation like she was checking off a box. I asked her why nobody told me. Her tone turned clinical, almost annoyed. She said, "We didn't think you'd want to come. You're always out there doing your own thing." I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I just sat there, phone pressed to my ear, listening to my sister tell me I had no place at my own mother's funeral. I don't remember how that call ended. I just remember the silence afterward. The kind that sits heavy in your ribs. Later that night, my cousin Heather messaged me. Wait, weren't you the executor? Grandma told me she put you in charge a long time ago. That made my stomach drop. I knew Mom had mentioned something like that once back when I was still helping with her taxes. I never saw the paperwork, but I remember her saying, "If something ever happens, you'll know what to do." It felt like a throwaway comment back then. But now? Now it sounded like a locked door someone had kicked in. I started digging. Emails. Old folders. And there it was, an old PDF she'd emailed me back in 2013. Her will. Her signature. My name listed as executor. I stared at it like it was a crime scene photo. Why didn't anyone say anything? Why wasn't I contacted by the lawyer? The court? Something was off. I wasn't just excluded, I was cut out. I called the probate office the next morning. Gave them her name. The clerk was polite but firm. We already have a file. Executor listed is Mark Dawson. I told her that wasn't right. That I had a copy of the will. She hesitated, then said something that made my mouth go dry. Actually, we do have a scanned signature for you on file. I asked her to send it. And when it arrived, I opened the PDF and felt something inside me twist. It was my name, but it wasn't my handwriting. The slope was wrong. The spacing off. It looked like someone trying really hard to imitate me, but not quite pulling it off. I sat there, staring at the screen in my motel room, laptop humming, air conditioner clicking like it was counting down to something. I didn't want to believe it yet. I needed to be sure. So I pulled up my actual signature from my truck insurance forms. Side by side they were close but not the same. Close enough to trick someone. Close enough to pass. But not close enough to be me. I spent the next few days driving in circles literally and mentally. My route took me from Arizona to Nebraska, but I couldn't tell you a single landmark I passed. I was on autopilot replaying everything I knew, or thought I knew about my family. I kept trying to convince myself it was a mistake. Maybe Mom changed her mind and rewrote the will. Maybe she told Mark to handle things. Maybe I did sign something years ago and forgot. But every maybe felt thinner than the last. I emailed the clerk and asked for the full file. It took a couple days, but when it came, I opened it in a gas station parking lot outside Lincoln. I sat in the cab with the engine running and flipped through digital pages on my phone. That's when it hit me. Whoever did this didn't just forge a signature. They rewrote the whole damn thing. The version on file didn't even list me. Not once. No mention of my name. No backup executor. No in the event that. It was like I never existed. Mark's name was all over it. He was granted everything: property, bonds, personal effects. Linda got oversight rights, as if that meant anything, probably to keep her quiet. The original PDF Mom sent me was clear. She split it between the three of us. Said she wanted peace in the family. Said, "I know you all have your own lives, but I want this to bring you together." And now? I was a ghost in the version they filed. I stared at the two wills, flipping between tabs on my phone. Same notary name but different dates. The new one had a signature from a witness I'd never heard of. Someone named Carl Hendricks. I Googled him. Nothing. No LinkedIn. No records. A ghost name like the kind you use when you know what you're doing is illegal. That night, I pulled over early and slept in a rest stop lot. Not because I was tired, but because I didn't trust myself to stay focused on the road. My mind kept spiraling. Did Mom know? Was she part of it? Did she forget me on purpose? Or was she gone before they got to her papers? I remembered how distant she'd sounded the last time we spoke. Like she was reading a script. I thought it was just her getting older, maybe foggy from meds. Now I wonder if someone was in the room, telling her what to say. Or keeping her from saying anything at all. I don't know what hurt more. The idea that she betrayed me. Or the idea that she died thinking I didn't care. I started having this recurring thought I couldn't shake. Maybe they didn't just steal the will. Maybe they stole her too. I took a few days off the road after that. Parked the rig at a storage lot in Kansas City and got a motel room nearby. First time in years I'd stopped driving without being sick or broken down. I just needed somewhere still, somewhere I could think. I printed both wills at a FedEx office and laid them side by side on the bed like pieces of a broken mirror. The fonts matched, the notary stamps looked identical, but the language was different. More legalese in the new one. Like someone copied boilerplate off a form website. Sloppy but just clean enough to pass. Then I called Martha Epps, Mom's next-door neighbor. I hadn't spoken to her in at least 5 years, but she picked up right away when I said my name. She sounded tired, sad, like the air had gone out of her. "I'm so sorry, Clay," she said. I kept asking Linda when you were coming. She just said you were out of state. I asked her about the days before the funeral, if she saw anything strange. She hesitated, then said, well, there was some man who came by. Not family. Had a folder and wore a suit. Talked to Mark on the porch, then left quick. Looked like a lawyer but didn't stay long. Didn't even go inside. That stuck with me. I asked what day that was. She told me it was 3 days after Mom died. Same day the will was filed. I thanked her. Hung up. Then I opened a search tab and looked up document fraud laws in Ohio. My hands were steady now. Next, I requested the deed to Mom's house. Took another day to arrive. When it came, there it was, signed over to Mark a week after the funeral. Market value, $280,000. $0 exchanged. Gift of equity, it said. Witnessed by Carl Hendricks. Again, I started a file. Screenshots, PDFs, photos of my original will print out. A timeline of dates and events. Every minute detail. I stopped thinking like a son and started thinking like someone preparing for court. I sent an anonymous tip to a probate fraud investigator I found online, just to see what would happen. Didn't leave my name. Just attached the 2 wills and a short note. Executor's signature forged. Compare dates and witnesses. That night, I sat on the bed and looked around the motel room. Same beige walls, same cheap painting of a mountain no one could name. And felt something I hadn't felt since I was a teenager. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. They really did this. And they were going to answer for it. I didn't expect the funeral home to be the place where everything snapped. I was back in Ohio, pulled into town under gray skies and the kind of humidity that sticks to your bones. I hadn't been back in years. Drove past the house I grew up in. Someone had cut down the cherry tree in front. The porch sagged a little. Felt like looking at a body with the soul drained out. I went to the funeral home that had handled Mom's service. Told them I wanted to pay respects, maybe leave some flowers. The woman behind the desk was polite, sweet even, until she asked my name. Clay Dawson, I said. Her face shifted. A flicker of confusion. Oh, she said slowly. Your sister told us you were unavailable. She said you were serving time. That sentence didn't even register at first. My brain jammed. Excuse me? I asked. She said you were incarcerated. That's why you couldn't attend. I didn't say anything for a few seconds. I just stood there while something deep inside me buckled. I had been erased before, ignored, excluded, but now I'd been rewritten. They didn't just want me gone. They wanted me discredited. Dirty. Shameful. Easier to explain me away than face what they'd done. I nodded and thanked the woman for her time. Walked outside into the heavy heat and sat in my truck. Didn't turn the engine on. Didn't move. Just sat there with my hands on the steering wheel. The plastic warm from the sun. Shaking from a cold that wasn't outside. I had tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. Told myself maybe it was a mistake, a misunderstanding, a family slip-up. But this was malice. Calculated. Cruel. And I was done playing nice. I pulled out my phone and called the probate lawyer I had found weeks earlier but hadn't dared contact. I left a message. This is Clay Dawson. I need to talk about a forged will. I have evidence. He called back an hour later. Calm voice. Took me seriously from the jump. Told me what to gather, what to copy, what to send. If it's as clear as you say, we can file suit, he said. I sent everything that night. Scans. Dates. Witness statements. Timeline. And then I sat back, stared at the motel ceiling, and whispered something I never thought I'd say out loud. I'm suing my family. Filing the lawsuit didn't feel like revenge. It felt like stepping out into air after being locked in a basement for years. The lawyer Thomas Reyes was sharp. Not showy, not dramatic, just calm and methodical. He reviewed everything I sent, then said, this isn't just forgery. This is coordinated fraud. You have a strong case. He drafted the complaint and filed it with the probate court in Franklin County. Civil suit. Clay Dawson versus Mark Dawson and Linda Dawson. Charges. Fraud, forgery, breach of fiduciary duty. I didn't tell anyone in the family. Not yet. I wanted them to find out the hard way, when the envelope hit their mailbox. A week later I got the call from Reyes. They've been served. I imagined the look on Mark's face reading the complaint. I imagined Linda's hands trembling as she realized the lies she swore were safe were now legal liabilities. 2 days after that I got a text from Mark. Really? This is how you want to play it? I didn't respond. Then Linda left a voicemail. full of hurt tones and fake tears. We're family, Clay. You didn't have to go nuclear. Played it twice. Laughed both times. Funny how they all found my number once lawyers got involved. The next week, I showed up to my deposition with a binder full of documents. I watched as Mark and Linda arrived looking like they'd aged 10 years. Reyes asked questions. Mark stammered. Linda deflected. I stayed silent except to confirm the facts. Afterward, Reyes told me, they'll try to settle. They don't want this going public. I told him, let it go public. Because here's the thing, it wasn't about the money. I didn't care if the house sold for $280,000 or $28. I cared that they buried our mother and buried me with her. I wanted a record. I wanted truth in ink. Something that would outlast their excuses. News started to travel. A cousin messaged me, confused. A neighbor called, shocked. A man from my old church wrote, I always thought something was off. The silence was cracking. Mark's boss got wind of it. Word was he got pulled into HR for ethics review. Linda stepped down from her church board for personal reasons. None of that was planned. I hadn't called anyone. I didn't whisper a thing. I just filed the truth. And the truth has gravity. I told Reyes I didn't want a quiet settlement. I wanted depositions. I wanted cross-examinations. I wanted my brother and sister to explain, under oath, how my name disappeared from my mother's life while I was still alive. They tried to offer me a deal, of course. Mark's attorney reached out with the usual nonsense. A private resolution benefits everyone. Linda sent a letter through her church lawyer, full of scripture and spin. Let he who is without sin. I didn't respond to either. Reyes filed a motion to compel full disclosure emails, notarized statements, even bank records. Turns out Mark had been draining a joint account Mom set up years ago for emergencies. He took out almost $9,000 in the months before she died. When we finally made it to the hearing, I showed up in my best jeans and cleanest shirt. Mark came in looking smug. Linda wore grief like a costume. I didn't say a word until it was my turn to testify. I walked to the stand and told the truth. Not just about the forged signature, but about the years I spent trying to stay connected. The ignored calls. The blocked visits. The voicemail that said, we didn't think you'd want to come. I saw the judge take notes. I saw Linda shift in her seat. I saw Mark's jaw twitch when I read from the original will. My copy dated, signed, sent to me directly from Mom. Reyes handed the judge a side-by-side comparison of the two wills. Highlighted the differences. The missing witness. The same notary name but different license numbers. The judge didn't say much, but his expression changed. Slightly. Enough. A week later we got word. Preliminary ruling in my favor. Full probate freeze. Asset review. Forgery investigation referred to the DA. And then the real fallout began. Mark's company restructured him out of a job. Linda's pastor asked her to take an indefinite leave from the church. Their kids, my nieces and nephews, reached out to me quietly. One sent a text that just said, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't answer. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I wasn't out for revenge. But I wasn't letting this rot go unspoken. They tried to bury me alongside her. Now everyone sees who held the shovel. Once the ruling hit the docket, everything sped up. I started getting messages from people I hadn't heard from in decades. Old neighbors. Distant cousins. Even a guy I hadn't seen since high school messaged. Didn't know you were the one who kept the lights on for your mom all those years. Respect. Felt good. And awful. Like I was finally being seen, but only because they'd been forced to look. Mark tried to play victim. He posted a vague rant on Facebook about family turning on family. And not everything is as it seems. A few people commented with prayers. A few with raised eyebrows. Most just ignored it. Linda stayed silent, but I heard through Martha Epps that her Bible study group quietly dropped her from their rotation. She'd shown up one last time and left early, red-faced and quiet. They didn't ask her back. Then came the day I drove past Mom's house and saw the for sale sign out front. Mark had listed it, probably thinking he could cash out before the freeze became permanent. But the court flagged it. A warning got posted to the property records. Anyone who looked it up saw one word: disputed. I parked across the street and just stared. The curtains in the front window had been changed. All the rose bushes I helped her plant were dead. Someone painted over the mailbox, covering the little bird design Mom loved. It wasn't my house anymore. But it wasn't theirs either. I didn't go up to the door. I didn't need to. That week, Reyes called to say the DA's office had officially opened an investigation into the forgery. He said the chances of jail time were slim, but criminal charges were possible. Mark might lose his license to work in financial services. Linda could be charged as an accessory. I didn't celebrate. I went to a diner and ate pancakes in silence, watching a couple across from me argue about syrup. Everything felt normal. But inside me there was this quiet tension, like standing in the middle of a field just before a storm breaks. I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. I was just awake. Wide awake for the first time in years. They took so much trying to keep me out, and all they did was give me back my voice. I wrote the letter on a Sunday morning in a diner booth, with half a cup of cold coffee and a legal pad. It wasn't angry, just final. To Mark and Linda, we share blood but we don't share values. We don't share truth. We don't share memory. Whatever part of me used to hope for reconciliation died the day you buried Mom and lied to the world about where I was. You stole more than property. You stole presents. You stole goodbye. You'll hear from the court again soon. Until then, we are done. Clay. I made 2 copies. Mailed them certified. Then I sat down and wrote something else. An obituary. A real one. I sent it to the local paper. Paid extra for the full column. No photo. Just words. Marjorie Dawson passed away peacefully at home, surrounded by silence more than family. She is survived by her youngest son, Clay Dawson, and by those who remembered her honestly. No services were attended by all who should have been present. The absence speaks louder than flowers. It ran the following Sunday. A few people reached out. A few were angry. One neighbor left a voicemail. You didn't have to say all that in public. But I did. Because nobody else had. The final thing I did was go to her grave. I waited until a weekday morning when I knew it would be quiet. Brought a single daisy. Parked far away so I could walk the hill alone. The stone was plain. Just her name, dates, and a line I'm sure Linda picked. Forever in our hearts. I stood there for a long time. Not crying. Just still. Then I took the folded obituary from my coat pocket. Weighed it down with the daisy. And whispered. I came anyway. Then I walked away. I didn't stay for the trial. Reyes kept me updated but I went back on the road. Something about the highway felt cleaner than sitting in a courtroom with people who still pretended I didn't exist. I let the lawyers do their job. I'd already done mine. The court froze the estate. Mark tried to contest but his paperwork was a mess, and the notary who signed the second will never showed up to testify. Probably because he doesn't exist. Last I heard, Linda moved in with her daughter 2 towns over. Mark stopped showing up to his men's group and took his profile off Facebook. I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel victorious. Just done. I taped Mom's original obituary, the one I wrote, to the inside of my rig right above the dash. It's crooked and the edges have curled, but I see it every morning when I start the engine. I still think about her sometimes. Not in a warm, fuzzy way. Not in grief either. More like someone remembering a place they used to live. A house that's since burned down. You remember the creak in the floorboards, the smell in the kitchen, but you wouldn't go back even if you could. Sometimes, late at night on the road, I wonder if she knew what they were doing. If she wanted to stop it but couldn't. If she looked for me in her last hours and no one let her reach me. I'll never know. There's no peace in that. But there's something honest in leaving the question unanswered. This story doesn't have a clean ending. No wrap-up. No redemption arc. Just a man with a steering wheel, a folded paper, and a stretch of highway ahead of him. That's what's left. A silence I can finally live with.